A deadly bomb blast rocks central Bangkok. One of the pioneers of the U.S. civil rights movement dies at 75. And an Asian cat lovers trend comes to Washington, D.C. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Lina Mudu. This is Africa 54. Vincent Makori is on assignment. 11th hour negotiations in the South Sudan peace process have ended without a deal, as South Sudanese President Salva Kiir is refusing to sign an agreement aimed at ending the country's 20-month civil war. His decision is the latest blow to peace talks between the government and rebels in Addis Ababa, sponsored by the East African bloc IGAD. The proposed agreement, earlier signed Monday by rebel leader Riek Machar and the head of South Sudan's ruling party, Pagan Amum, but the deal appears meaningless after the president rejected it. The nation was plunged into chaos in December 2013 when a political dispute between President Salva Kiir and his deputy Riek Machar spiraled into armed conflict. Numerous rounds of negotiations have failed to end fighting that has killed over 10,000 people. We hope to have a live report from Ethiopia in a few minutes. Now, a massive bomb blast rocked central Bangkok on Monday evening near a Hindu shrine. Police reports say at least 16 people were killed and many more were wounded. But Reuters is reporting that at least 27 people have been killed. It is the worst bombing in the Thailand capital in more than a decade. Surveillance cameras caught the moment of the explosion around 7 p.m. local time near the Erawan shrine. VOA correspondent Steve Herman was on the scene and says he saw 6 bodies under sheets at the Erawan shrine, and at least one person was taken away in an ambulance. Herman also says that at that time of the evening, there would be hundreds of people inside that shrine. Video from the scene shows body parts scattered on the street and on top of nearby cars. Police in Thailand are being very cautious. They say that a second bomb will have to be defused. For continuing updates on this story, visit voanews.com. Now in China, hundreds of residents in Taipei who were displaced after last week's massive explosions protested Monday as the death toll from the disaster rose to 114, including 21 firefighters. The protesters gathered outside the hotel where officials have been holding news conferences demanding the government compensate them for homes that were badly damaged from the blasts. Authorities have ordered a mandatory evacuation near the site of the hazardous materials storage facility where the blasts occurred, and workers have started a massive cleanup of a 6-kilometer wide area. Tianjin's vice mayor says about 700 tons of the toxic chemical sodium cyanide was stored in 2 locations within the blast site. China's top prosecutor has opened an investigation into the cause of the accident. Now, turning to the European migrant crisis, at least 49 migrants died over the weekend attempting to cross the Mediterranean Sea to Europe. The Italian Navy believes they may have died after inhaling exhaust fumes while crammed inside their boat. Many crews were able to rescue just over 300 others off the coast of Libya as migrants continue to risk their lives on rickety and often overcrowded boats, often overcrowded. Europe has been flooded by tens of thousands of desperate migrants fleeing poverty and armed conflicts in North Africa and the Middle East. The social media feed of the jihad monitoring site, Site Intelligence, is quoting a new audio message purportedly released from the leader of the terrorist group Boko Haram, Abubakar Shaiku, denying reports that he is dead and unable to serve as leader. But Reuters could not independently verify the authenticity of the audio message. There have been several claims by Nigeria's military that Sheku has been killed over the last few years, but he keeps resurfacing in new videos. Last week, Chad's President Idris Deby said that Sheku was wounded and has been replaced as leader by Mahamadou Daoud. In the Middle East, fighters backing Yemeni's exiled government have seized the southern province of Shabwa from Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. Military officials say the rebels pulled out of Shabwa over the weekend after handing over control of the provincial capital attack. The fighters say they are making strikes against the Houthi rebels, forcing them to retreat in the city of Taiz. They claim they are now in control of government buildings, including the palace of ousted President Ali Saleh. The fighting has generated a humanitarian crisis in Yemen, leaving most of its people in dire need of food and medical supplies. Diplomatic efforts to bring peace to Yemen and restore the government of President Abu Rabah Mansour Hadi have so far failed. The African Union is warning that the political crisis in Burundi could have catastrophic consequences for the country and the surrounding region. The statement by AU Commission Chief Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma comes a day after the killing of former military chief Jean Bikomagu. Unidentified gunmen killed Bikomagu outside of his home in Bujumbura. The death follows the recent assassination of the president's security advisor, Adolphe Nshimirimana. Now, a new book describes the southern African nation of Angola as an economic miracle for its rapid transformation after a brutal civil war. But critics of Angola's longtime government say the high rises and new developments that glitter in Angola's capital have come at a high cost. VOA's Anita Powell has our report.
Angola has transformed itself in the last decade, from an impoverished, war-torn nation into an economic powerhouse. A new book details this incredible process.
Angola had a civil war that lasted for 41 years and that killed 1 million people. By the end of it, obviously, Angola was in tatters. What happened over the subsequent decade was absolutely extraordinary. The economy of Angola multiplied tenfold. It was the greatest growth story in the world in the early 21st century.
But Angolan activists say that development hasn't benefited everyone. Angola is one of the world's most unequal societies.
It was necessary, but the problem is the way it was done. It came at the cost of a lot of people have been completely marginalized and excluded from this process.
And activists say human rights and free expression have been stifled along the way. Journalist and activist Rafael Marques de Moraes says his critical coverage of the government is what really landed him in court for defamation. He is critical of the development brought about by Angola's longtime president, in power since 1979.
What development? That's the question we have to ask. When you build high-rises in Africa, especially in countries like Angola, where there's so many, people tend to believe that the high-rises translate into development, but that's not true. It has the highest child mortality rate in the world, worse than Afghanistan. What development is that we cannot provide the basics to save children?
Angola is now sub-Saharan Africa's third largest economy. That's largely been driven by oil. But that, say activists, is not enough. And they worry about what the future holds for Angola. Anita Powell, VOA News, Johannesburg.
A U.S. civil rights leader, Julian Bond, has died. Bond died Saturday night at the age of 75 in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, after a brief and specified illness. He's being remembered as a passionate and eloquent voice for the cause of justice. Bond's activism spanned decades, from leading student protests against segregation in America's volatile South during the 1960s to leading the nation's legendary civil rights organization, the National Association for Colored People, NAACP. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, how the humble fruit fly is helping scientists battle Alzheimer's. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
The stock market meltdown in China is giving some Chinese consumers a reason to buy gold. And with gold at its lowest level in 5 years, Sun Fen, a gold customer in Shanghai, says she thinks gold is a good buy. She says the country's economic environment is not very good and gold holds its value. So I want to buy some gold products as well as gold bars, she says. China's stock market has had its ups and downs recently, so I consider to buy gold. Li Fuing with Lao Feng Sheng, one of the oldest jewelry brands in China, says gold sales are up recently. She says Chinese customers have always favored gold. Some customers said they have lost money in the stock market, so they would rather buy something real that they can hold in their hands. The People's Bank of China announced recently it is buying gold, a move that helps stabilize the price of the precious metal. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexia.
I'm Jeff Selden, and I work the National Security Beat. National Security Beat is anything that affects the national security of the United States, from counterterrorism to surveillance to even relations with Russia. It's one of the most fascinating beats you can have. It's probably one of the more important beats that you can cover because it touches on so many areas of the world, so many areas of people's day-to-day lives. I'm Jeff Selden, and my beat is national security.
The war against one of the most devastating diseases of modern times, Alzheimer's disease, is raging without a pause. In spite of the fact that its cause is not yet known, scientists are making progress on several fronts. VOA's George Putich has the latest.
Alzheimer's is a neurodegenerative disease that affects more than 30 million people a year, slowly robbing them of memory, degrading their bodily functions, and eventually killing them. Extensive examinations of the patient's brains show that the disease slowly destroys the neural network, which is so complex that we still do not know which chemical is responsible for it. According to one theory, a certain protein named Tau becomes defective, disrupting the normal function of neurons. Scientists in Slovakia report they have developed a vaccine that triggers the immune system to produce antibodies that effectively stop deterioration of the Tau protein.
In our trials on animal models, transgenic animal models, we were seeing 95% of beta Tau removed within a very short period. It was a very encouraging result.
Scientists from Eli Lilly Pharmacological Company are trying a different approach, based on the theory that Alzheimer's disease is caused by abnormal deposits of a chemical called amyloid beta. Their new drug proved to be effective on patients with mild symptoms.
There were no additional side effects. It's important because it showed a continued effect of the drug, so the effects aren't transient, they aren't temporary.
Results of the clinical trials of both drugs were presented at the recent symposium in Washington. Meanwhile, at Stanford University, researchers are probing the brain of the fruit fly, trying to fully understand neurodegenerative diseases.
There is a lot of genes related to the human disease, and there are a lot of fly human disease model. That means you can induce a lot of symptoms.
With the help of an infrared camera, a special robotic machine catches flies and prepares their brains for study without drugging the insects. As their neurons also contain Tau proteins that can degenerate in the same way that happens in Alzheimer's, scientists say fruit flies are very useful subjects for lab researchers into the devastating disease. George Putich, VOA News, Washington.
Now, Eurozone finance ministers have approved Greece's €86 billion deal. But now German Chancellor Angela Merkel needs to reassure skeptical lawmakers that the IMF will take part in Greece's third bailout ahead of a vote on Wednesday. Reuters' Clara Louis reports.
The morning sun beats down on Athens residents, but for many a cloud has been cast as the country faces up to its new bailout conditions.
I don't think there is any possibility that we can move forward. People have no money. It isn't going to work.
European markets rose in morning trade after Eurozone finance ministers approved the €86 billion bailout on Friday. But sticking points amongst Greece's lenders remain. The IMF has been pressing Eurozone countries to provide Athens with significant debt relief. The bank says it will wait until October to decide whether it participates in the programme. FX Pro's Simon Smith.
I think the IMF is going to drive a hard bargain, I think, and say, look, extending maturities, saying, look, you can pay us back over a longer period, is not going to be sufficient in their view, and debt restructuring will be, as in write-down of debts, would be what they're looking for. That's very politically unacceptable within Europe, so I think we're going to head for quite a significant standoff.
The uncertainty is threatening to become a headache for German Chancellor Angela Merkel ahead of a Bundestag vote on Wednesday. Germany has strongly opposed any debt haircut, but lawmakers from Merkel's party want the IMF involved because of its reputation and clout. Merkel's not the only one facing a potential rebellion. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has now got to follow through with imposing tax hikes and spending cuts. He's suffered the biggest backlash yet from his leftist Syriza party and is under pressure to consider a confidence vote that could pave the way for early elections if he loses.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a new cafe in one of DC's most upscale neighborhoods serves up cuteness with a cause. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines.
Regional leaders push the South Sudanese government and rebels to seal a peace agreement to end their 20-month civil war. In South Africa, thousands of people marked the third anniversary of the Marikana massacre of 34 striking miners. And we stay in South Africa, where Oscar Pistorius is to be released from prison to custodial supervision after serving 10 months of a 5-year sentence for killing his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. In Botswana, swaths of southern Africa hard hit by the worst drought in decades. Finally, in Kenya, smart jacket wearable technology is to make riding a motorcycle safer.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
I am Sheikha Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here is what's trending. Would you like a little cat with your cappuccino? Washington, D.C.'s first cat cafe serves coffee with a cause, the adoption of rescue cats. Cat cafes are popular across Asia, and a birthday trip to Thailand inspired owner Kanchan Singh to start Crumbs and Whiskers with the help of a successful Kickstarter campaign that allowed Singh to reach her goal in 15,000 in one day. Customers can book reservations online to grab a beverage and play with the 20-odd cats that have made this cafe their foster home. Future plans include cat trivia nights and kitty yoga. Next up, designers showcase bridal couture at Fashion Week in Delhi. This year's most talked about collections were inspired by nature, while some dresses had pink flower and vine prints and pearls, while other collections featured animal design. Design team Gauri and Naini Ka, who are sisters, collaborated with an American artist, Travis Bruce Black, who translated pictures of gazelles, zebras, and giraffes in Masai Mara in Kenya into paintings. The sisters then incorporated the images into their designs. And finally, Muslima chic hits the runway in Kuala Lumpur with the beautifully styled headscarves and full-length skirts. The models of the Islamic Fashion Festival were a world away from the figure-revealing bridal creations in Delhi. Soft pinks and earthy browns were accentuated with pops of orange and green as designers showcased their work as part of the ready-to-wear show. Long-sleeve shirts and maxi skirts were paired with soft headscarves and wide-brimmed hats that the models wore with heavily charcoaled eyes and nude lips. Designers this year favored soft pastels and billowing fabrics with an emphasis on layers. And that's what's trending today. Now, the film Straight Outta Compton tallied $56 million at the box office over the weekend. The docudrama is about the rise and fall of NWA, the music group that helped to revolutionize hip-hop and rap. The film chronicles the discontent in Compton, a poor inner-city neighborhood of Los Angeles, wedged between gang violence and police abuse, and how hip-hop music expressed the black community's anger and emotions. Here is VOA's Pelenopoulou.
Where you think you're going? Man, I'm just trying to get home.
That's my son!
You need to get back in the house or I will ruin your night.
You ain't gotta talk to me.
In the tough black neighborhood of Compton, it often seemed like a teenager could not leave his house without getting into some kind of trouble with the police or gangsters.
You had the chance to change the situation. Would you take it?
Gary Gray's Straight Outta Compton docudrama shows how that volatile state of affairs became the seedbed of rap music in the 1980s.
Cruising down the street in my 6'4".
And so NWA, the first rap group, was born.
You're listening to Compton's very own Ice Cube, Eazy-E, and Dr. Dre. I gotta tell you, you are witnessing history.
The group's tough lyrics on drugs, violence, and poverty, and its visceral music took the world by storm. Filmmaker Gary Gray says he worked hard to keep the story as authentic as possible, actually filming in Compton.
This is not only history, it's American history, it's world history. And so I get a chance to put on my journalist hat and be a historian.
People are scared of you guys. You have a unique voice. The world needs to hear it.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
We put it all in the music, all our frustration and anger.
Ice Cube, now a Hollywood mogul, remembers what it was like.
Our music was like our weapon.
And that's the most powerful weapon we got.
His son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., portrays his father as a young man.
They shed light on things that people needed to know.
But their lyrics prompted harsh public reaction outside of Compton. The film focuses on NWA's rise to fame and follows it through its rifts and final breakup.
Sit tight and let us do our job.
Hey, officer, I'm sorry. What is going on out?
Can you stay right there, please?
But its scenes of police violence are especially hard-hitting after the recent deaths of unarmed black men such as Michael Brown in Ferguson and Eric Garner in New York City at the hands of police.
Well, you're wasting your time, Mr. Manager.
You gotta be kidding me.
You're wasting your time.
Really?
These clients of yours, these rappers,
Yeah.
they look like gang members.
You can't come down here and arrest people just because of what they look like. Are you crazy? But that's police harassment.
Straight Outta Compton has attracted positive reviews for offering an authentic portrayal of NWA and for taking us back to a time when daily violence bred a different kind of music. Pelenopoulou, VOA News, Washington.
Yo, Trey. What up? I got something to say.
It's time for our Monday Sports Report, and for that, we welcome back Sonny Young to the studio. Hello, Sonny.
Hello, Lenore, and sporty greetings once again to our Africa 54 viewers. One of Nigeria's top young female football players is honing her skills here in the Washington area. I had a chance to meet 21-year-old Francisca Ordega at a recent Washington Spirit practice. Ordega is a striker for the Spirit in the National Women's Soccer League, And she also represents Nigeria at the international level. Francisca, known as Franny to her Spirit teammates, scored the equalizing goal for Nigeria against Sweden at this year's Women's World Cup in Canada. Ordega began her club career in Nigeria, and she played in Sweden before coming to Washington this season. She compares playing in those countries to here in the United States.
Playing in Nigeria is a huge stack. When it's like you're playing more at home, so you feel more relaxed than the rest. But playing in Sweden was pretty cool though. But I think the league doesn't suit me the way I'm playing here. So I think playing here is much. I feel more relaxed, feel much happy with the team and the rest. So everything is just perfect for me. The league here, I think, is better.
Francisca Ordega's head coach on the Washington Spirit is Mark Parsons. He says Ordega's World Cup experience brings a lot to the club.
Francisca Ordega, she's such a dangerous player, and I think going and playing against those strong teams and realizing that she can beat anyone in the world, when she gets the ball at her feet, she has the ability to do it. She had a fantastic tournament. Bringing that level of confidence here is important and great. I don't know if she needed it because she's such a driven person and a free spirit. It doesn't matter who she's up against. I remember her debut. She kind of tore Becky Sauerbrunn inside out, and then we went to Sky Blue. She tore Christy Rampone inside out, and it doesn't matter who she's playing against. She's ready to go and ready to get at people, and I think the World Cup has definitely helped that.
That's Mark Parsons, the head coach of the Washington Spirit Soccer Club, talking about his free-spirited Nigerian player, Francisca Ordega. I'm VOA Sonny Young, and that's the sunny side of sports. Lenore?
Hey, Sonny, tell us about meeting Francisca. How was it?
Yeah, she's a very interesting, exciting player. We heard Coach Parsons say how she's very dangerous on the field. She's one of the fastest players in the National Women's Soccer League, Lenore, and I think she has a very bright future ahead of her.
And she said it was cold playing in Sweden, among other things?
I think it's a little warmer here in Washington. When I went out to the practice, it was sweltering hot. In fact, the team was taking frequent water breaks because of the heat. But yeah, Ordega is one of the Africans playing in the league this year. I know women's soccer at the professional level is still trying to find its feet in terms of attracting fans, but I think the Women's World Cup has done a lot to boost the profile.
Oh, okay, Sonny, thank you so much. That was great. And thanks, Sonny. Be sure to watch the sunny side of sports every Monday and Friday on Africa 54. That's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 300 and 600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. This phrase sounds like it has to do with eating, but does it really?
Bread and butter.
I am having so much fun acting in the play. Acting would be a great career if it paid better, but it doesn't. So my computer programming job is still my bread and butter.
I hear you. As an actor, it is hard to pay the rent and put food on the table. Stick with your bread and butter job for now.
Bread and butter are basic foods. They are common and important food sources. And that is what this idiom means. Something is your bread and butter if it is an important and dependable kind of income. It helps you pay your bills and, yes, put food on the table. And that's English in a Minute.